This is the X-Man Tornado V2M. It is made by X-Man, a cheese sub-brand. For being only 25 American dollars, or 32 Australian, this cube is amazing. But it's not for everyone. Let's get into it. Let's start off with the specs. The Tornado V2 measures in at about 55mm, which is about the standard size. It weighs in at an impressively light 72 grams, being released in about May this year. The feel of the Tornado is something I've never felt before. It's smooth, light, airy, even a little solid and blocky. It's also very quiet and low pitched. Just listen to this. Out of the box, corner cutting 45 degrees came with a bit of effort, which was quite surprising. But now it's a few weeks later and I'm using the exact same setting, which I'll go to later, and with break-in, it can definitely do 45 with no problem. Although if you go a little bit further, you can start to lock up a little bit. Obviously no one should be turning this in accurately, but the more a cube can corner cut, it gets easier to corner cut small distances. However, the reverse corner cutting is kind of lacking on this cube. On the default setting, it can corner cut half a piece pretty easily, but go any further and it doesn't really do anything. Let's look at the customization system. I probably am a little biased, but I reckon that this is the best customization system on any cube ever. Here's the tool that is used to customize the cube. This hook is detachable and it's held in by magnets. But you can open up this other end, revealing 3 more parts that are all held in by magnets. I'm pretty sure that these parts are to turn an actual screw on a regular cube, and as far as the Tornado goes, they're useless. Here are the 2 main parts. This flathead piece is used to change the magnets. We'll turn aside 45 degrees, which reveals these red magnet slots. There's a plus sign here and a minus sign over here with 3 other dots in between. You can put the flathead in the line, then you can turn it. If the line is pointing closer towards the plus sign, you'll have a stronger magnet. If the line is pointing closer towards the minus sign, you will have a weaker magnet. There's no official number setting, but it's good to know this. The weakest magnet I call setting 1, and then there are 3 options in between, and then the strongest is number 5. To change the screw and spring, we change this part to the hook. Opening up the center cap reveals the circle of numbers. You put the hooks inside these 2 little circles. If you turn anti-clockwise, you're doing the equivalent of making a screw tighter on a regular cube. You can tell what setting you're on by looking at the numbers inside the circles, so that's here and here. So as you can see, I am on setting number 3. There are 5 settings, numbered 1 to 5, and the higher numbers represent a tighter screw. What that means is that it doesn't corner cut as well, but it also doesn't flop around as much. And to change the spring setting, you do the same thing, you put the 2 hooks inside the circles, but you simply just turn clockwise instead. To determine what number you're on, you simply just look at the little gap over here and the number that is right next to it. So I'll just turn it. So in this case, I am also on setting 3. So the gap's here and the number right next to it is 3. The higher numbers represent a stronger spring, which makes the cube a little slower, the corner cuts more snappier, but it becomes more stable. Just one little thing, when you're putting the center caps back on, make sure that you put them on the right way. It's because of these little notches right here, it will prevent you from rotating the center cap 90 degrees and putting it back on. The reason why I'm able to do it, I actually don't know, but it's actually a little concerning because when you do solve a lot, like I'm just going to do some turns right now. Listen to this. Pushing on the center caps, and I hear that little sound. What that means is that the center caps go slightly out, like they come off just a little bit, and what can happen is that they just fly off during mid-turn. So just a little warning, if you're like solving a competition or something, make sure to like do this. And also, if it feels like it doesn't want to go in, don't force it because you could break it, and break it basically means you're able to do this, but they will come off. So why do I think that this is amazing? Firstly, the tool that is used to change every setting is so compact. All you need to do is just change the parts. And to change the screw and spring system, you use the same tool and you either just turn clockwise or anti-clockwise to change both. The fact that you can change everything with just this is amazing to me. Now, a customization system is useless if it doesn't affect the cube in a positive way. As a lot of you know, I tried every single possible combinations of settings on this cube, including the magnets. I have a video analyzing the results and a Google Sheet in case you want to look at it yourself, but I'll summarize it here. For me, I'm able to change my turning style depending on what cube I'm using. It probably explains why I was able to do almost the same on almost all of the settings. However, I can definitely feel a difference between what setting I'm using, and I know it can have an impact on what kind of turning you are. This cube seems to be more on the stable side. I put the setting on 3 for the screws, spring and magnets, and I can feel the stableness of it. Unless you have accurate turning, I don't think settings 4 and 5 for the screw and spring are worth using, because they're just way too tight. Although if you do have accurate turning, then you can try 4, but definitely don't go any further. For everyone else, I recommend starting on the very loosest setting, which is 1 for both. Then, make the screw tighter by 1 setting, and test. Obviously you got to do this for all the sides. Do the same for the spring, then test. Repeat this process until you find a setting that you enjoy. If you do end up going past the 3rd setting for the screw and or the spring, you may just like stable cubes and that's alright. You won't try all of the settings, but it is a good range to get you started. If you don't like any of those settings, then of course you can just explore yourself. However, I don't really like them better and I feel like that range is pretty good. For the magnets, I recommend doing this. Take the number 6 and subtract the number on the spring setting. That is the magnet setting that will most likely fit the springs. For example, if you use spring setting 4, then the magnet setting that I would recommend is 6 minus 4, which is 2. So the magnet setting I would recommend for spring setting 4 is number 2, which is this one. See the line pointing towards the dot beside the minus sign. Of course, this isn't perfect, but it should be a good starter. I use magnet setting 4, screw setting 2, and spring setting 2. Although the screw isn't perfect for me, if there was a setting 2.5, I would absolutely love this. 2 feels a little unstable, but 3 feels a little too tight. One thing that's kinda hard to control on this cube are reverse flicks. At the end of this solve, I got a UA perm, and the algorithm that I use requires me to do 2 reverse flicks, and as you can see, I'll mess up right here. As you can see, the cube is severely overshooting whenever I do that reverse flick. Because of this reason, I don't use it for one-handed, because in one-handed, you have to use this kind of finger trick a lot. Alright, enough about the customization system, let's talk about the design and the look of the cube. This puzzle has black internals. With the rise of GAN cubes, black internals have become very popular amongst cubers. I think it looks pretty cool, but I prefer primary plastic. Here's a corner piece. I don't know what the spiderweb type of pattern is meant to do, maybe it's to reduce friction, but this corner piece kinda does look a little concerning. This part, I'm not sure what it's called, it looks a little bit thin that it could break, although I don't think this should happen, but if it does, I'll let you know. The edge pieces also look interesting. There's quite a big gap between this hook and the main part of the edge. As you can see, there's a very small gap between the corners. I don't know if this is true, but I think this is what contributes to that stable-ish feeling, as it's kind of hard to put a piece in. Out of the box, this cube has frosted plastic. I don't really like it, and I personally don't know what the point of it is. It's slippery, and I don't like the feel of it. 3 weeks later, however, it's very glossy, shiny, and I really like holding it. I think I know why this happened, it's because I used it so much in a short amount of time. Just look at those colossus, they look quite cool. The color scheme seems to resemble a MoU or YJ budget cube. Obviously, it looks a little bit darker because of those black internals. I'm okay with this color scheme, but it's not my favorite. This might be a little controversial, but I'm not really a fan of this dark green here. It might look a little bit light through the camera, but looking at it right now, it definitely looks a little dark. It doesn't really contrast with the dark blue, and I would prefer the green to be something lighter. Something like this. This is the Chi MS3x3, it's got a light green and a dark blue, and they contrast really well. I believe this is called Half Bright color scheme, and I like these colors the best. Although I do know a few people that don't really like the light green, especially if you are colorblind, it can be hard to distinguish the light green and light orange. I know a lot of you are in the same situation as me a few months ago. You have a budget cube and now you want to upgrade to some sort of flagship. What I'm going to do here is compare the Tornado V2 to 3 of the most popular budget cubes so that you people with a budget cube can get an idea of what the Tornado V2 will feel like. The Meilong M is quite stable and a bit slow, but it can flex a tiny bit, although it can have minor catches that lock up the cube. If you're used to this cube, then the Tornado V2 will feel a little more stable with a slightly airier feel and a little faster. This is the Chi MS. It's a very fast and flexible cube. It's also larger than the Tornado at 56mm compared to 55. If you're used to this cube, then the Tornado will feel stable and smooth, as the MS is also quite crispy. This is the RS3M 2020. It's also quite fast and flexible, but not as much as the MS. It's also quite heavy. If you're used to this cube, then the Tornado will feel quite solid, but also quite light. So as you can tell, I really like this cube, but it's not perfect or for everyone. For example, the reverse corner cutting isn't very good, and it requires you to have very accurate turning. But I enjoy that airy blocky feel, the compact customization system with a wide range of options, the low pitch sound, and the very affordable price for all of that. The link to where I bought this cube is in the description, and if you have this cube and have a particular opinion on it, make sure to tell me about it in the comments. Thanks for watching, make sure to like and subscribe, and see you next time.